Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us for our second episode of the Ecomm Engine. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Liam from Vervaunt and talking today about census. Liam, good morning. How are you?
Hi, yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all.
How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. We were just chatting before we came on air just about Vervaunt and all the cool stuff that you guys are doing. And every Ecomm brand or Ecomm manager I talk to certainly knows of Vervaunt and has worked with yourself or Paul or Sham and the team. But I'm really interested today to put Vervaunt to one side and just talk about what you're doing with census and what seems like it's come out of nowhere. But bloody hell, when we started using it and introducing it to brands, we're seeing some amazing results. So I guess first things first, before we dive in, for those that perhaps somehow don't know yourself or the Vervaunt team, perhaps just tell us a little bit about you guys, and then we'll dig into census.
Yeah. So, I'm Liam, technical director at Vervaunt. So we're Ecomm consultancy, and we also have are a performance marketing agency that's sort of numerical wise the bigger side of the company. But I'm in the Ecomm consultancy side, which is a team of like 6. We've all got that sort of specialist areas within that. So depending on different needs of clients and things, we've got different ranges of knowledge. I'm the sort of technical and solutions side of that. So my background's like development, and technical solutions and things. We span a sort of broad bit of Ecomm.
And for those listening, Liam, is there a set kind of an ideal customer profile or a set size of brand where they're finding actually Vervaunt is best suited?
So, I mean, so we work with a lot of sort of premium fashion, luxury fashion brands, but that's sort of by chance where, you sort of get a lot of, get some expertise and get some experience in that market, and then sort of rolls across a lot of other brands. But I think we do push for that and just sort of best in class or best in market brands for their sector. So it's not just all premium luxury fashion brands. There's like a range of verticals, but we try and work with sort of best in class across those verticals.
Nice. And so what I'm seeing, or I've certainly seen since coming back after Christmas, is more and more brands looking at how data and AI is going to shape their Ecomm strategy in 2024. And so when I was thinking of the title for today's session, I thought actually unlocking the power of customer data through actionable insights is almost a silver bullet that every Ecomm brand I speak to is looking for. They're like, we've got this data normally in a whole host of different places and never in one dashboard. But actually, what the heck do they do with it? And how do they turn graphs or numbers or metrics into something more actionable that they can go and do? And that's why when I looked at census, I was like, finally, we might have something here. So first things first, what does unlocking the power of customer data through actionable insights mean to you?
Yeah, I think good title as well. That was all you're doing, not it? But
say that, thank you.
I think as you just said, I think like the customer data piece for years has been like a gold rush of just collecting as much customer data as possible, especially with like the cookie, when the cookie laws were changing and tracking transparency changes with like GA and iOS. It was a bit of a gold rush, but I think, that's nothing new. Like everyone knows everybody's tried to collect as much customer data as possible. But I think the key part of the title, as you've just said, is like actionable insights on that data. So there's, tons of different platforms that are, dashboards to try and surface some of the data. And there's loads of brands that I've talked to that, have a mass, as you've just said, massive data in different places and, trying to unpick it all. But yeah, for me, I think the key part is actually that's like, it's like having all the working out for the homework, and we're trying to actually provide the answer rather than just brands having all the working out and try and unpick it and figure out what to do with it. I think there's a growing trend in a few tools that I'm like starting to see where the use of AI or the use of other methods providing like analysis and commentary on the data rather than just here's all the data. But yeah, I think that says the key. And from what we're trying to do, I think that's like at the heart of everything that we're trying to build out. What about you? What does that title mean for you?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was interesting because too often do I see customers or our customers focus on collecting the data and they feel like that's done. And so what I want to do this year, particularly with the content we're delivering, is saying actually the collection of the data is the first part. And I'm talking to whether it be Clar or Suite Analytics or Little Data, like loads of great tools that are helping people to aggregate that data and trying to make something meaningful of it. But even still, what I'm finding is that those tools are pulling in stuff from GA. And again, I talked to a lot of brands that have been unhappy with the GA4 transition and what that's their data and the complexity of it. And so what I want to do is just really simplify it for our brands to say, actually, like, I know it looks complex, but at its heart, it's not. And this is what it's saying. And normally for us, the three levers when it comes to growing an e-com brand in terms of on Shopify come around conversion rate, average order value, and repeat purchase. And a lot of those data inputs will input one of those, which will be actually, that's telling you that, which means actually you've got a conversion challenge, or that's telling you that, which means you might want to look at average order value and upsell, cross-sell, etc. And so that to me is why I wanted to do something like this today, is to say actually data seems this big scary topic, but actually it doesn't have to be. And hopefully if we can just make it simple for the users, as you guys are doing with Census, and say, here's the data, but actually more importantly, here's what you've got to do with the data, it becomes more accessible for everyone.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So my question for you is, I mean, for those that haven't seen the Census demo and perhaps haven't checked it out yet, how would you describe it in its simplest term?
Yeah, I think so. In its simplest term, it's a Shopify app, hopefully soon to be broader than just Shopify, but a Shopify app to build out dynamic customer surveys is like in a nutshell how I'd say it. So I think it basically started as like a little side project with me and Paul, like maybe 18 months ago. And it's turned into our like passion project. So alongside everything else, this is our like real passion currently. But yeah, it was initially post-purchase. So we'll talk about like post-purchase a lot, post-purchase service. And that is typically probably still the majority like use case for it. But yeah, as sort of usage grew and interest grew, we added like the on-site service as well. And then sort of embedding surveys into pages for better, like truer NPS and things. So dynamic customer surveys is how I describe it to summarize it. But yeah, essentially you can like build out the surveys using either our preset question bank that we think is pretty strong anyway, or completely custom questions. And then because of how it's sort of tied with Shopify, you can add sort of really specific rules, to target certain customers with certain questions, and get really specific data. And then going back to your first question, I think my favorite part of it, or the key part of it, is the analysis, like providing that analysis and sort of segmentation automatically for merchants.
So one question I have on that is something I was thinking about. One of our brands, Forthglade, dog food, and how can we go after one-time purchases to provide them a set of questions, almost around did they know a subscription existed and did they know they could save X if they went the subscription route, versus obviously if you'd purchased a subscription, the last thing you want is the same set of questions. So tell me a little bit more about that segmentation. I guess we could have 2 or 3 different customer journeys, and depending on what type of customer it was, we could then provide them a different set of post-purchase questions to try and get them into the next bucket, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, exactly that. So I think, and we've got merchants using it in sort of cosmetics and similar sort of vitamin subscriptions and that sort of thing, where actually it is, so you might have a completely different set of questions or a set of data from first-time purchases to people that are on a set routine, or how they're experiencing that. So within the dynamic rules, there's a range maybe we'll go through within this, but a range of, so you can set whether it's first time purchases or repeat or subscription, if it's an order that's subscription based, and then completely tailor the set of questions that are asked to that customer, as well as a range of other things.
Question: that data, when it feeds out the back of it, and just continuing on that thread, so let's say, okay, we've done it for fourth grade and we're doing this, and I have spoken to fourth grade kids, but let's just say, okay, well, that data, then how can we feed it into something like a Klaviyo or something like that, just to be a little bit smarter with the insights? So now I know they've got X, Y, Z preferences. And the example I'm thinking now is we've got a couple of brands in the kind of lingerie space, and to be able to understand, actually, I now understand a color preference, I now understand a size preference, I now understand X, Y, and Z, and I'm kind of enriching my knowledge of the customer to then be able to personalize the experience off the back of it, to say, oh, actually, next time they come on, they only want to see a size 8 and they only want to see X, Y, Z colors. Is that something that Census has the capability to do now, or potentially will have going forwards?
Yeah, I mean, so you could do that now, tied into development, either within the theme or within your CRM flows, or whatever the case may be. So I think so fundamentally we wanted all the data is like completely, none of the data is like locked down to us, so all the data is completely exportable in nice format. So you could, in theory, if we can't do anything natively, you can export the data and go and sort of do whatever you want with that. But at the heart of it, we wanted everything to be usable. So all the responses that are collected, you can push back into Shopify on the customer as like tags, meta fields, which means a lot of our merchants using Census their customer service team will have those responses in Gorgeous when they're checking out who that customer is. There's specific flows that merchants are using in Klaviyo to based on what they've had as responses, or what segments they drop into, building out specific flows. And it just, because we've pushed that data back into Shopify, that just seamlessly can be passed into their sort of CRM setup. And then, as you've just said, that the third one is, because you've got customer tags as what was the example you just gave? You just,
in the lingerie space, if you had different colors or sizes, etc.
Yeah, exactly. So you could have customers tagged based on what size they bought, or what color they say is their preferred color, and actually do some custom work in the theme to say, when they're tagged with that, prioritize that color, or merchandise by that color, or anything clever like that.
Yeah, nice. And I think this is certainly where that kind of hyper personalization is certainly where I'm seeing more and more brands heading. And when I was talking to Ali today, who joined us for his recap of NRF, he was saying certainly a lot of the topic of conversation out there NRF this year is around hyper personalization and hyper relevance. And so to me, Census seems absolutely integral to that. Question in terms of the roadmap of Census and where it's going. I mean, selfishly, for agencies, for us to be able to gather actionable insight from customers of our customer to say, actually, here was a friction point, actually, I'd like to see this done differently, is amazing in terms of being able to build a roadmap.
Yeah.
When you're working with the brands on Census, are you finding them using the data as much as they should be? And I ask that because another classic problem we have is time. And a lot of brands are kind of doing the hard part of collecting the data, and they're getting the input, but actually they're then doing nothing with it. And I guess as a self-serve tool, it's still very much reliant on the agency in question or the brand to do something with the responses that they're getting.
Yeah. I mean, and going back to your very first question, I think that's been like the trend of, over years, people collecting massive amounts of data, and then it sort of just sat there and it doesn't actually impact anything. Or we've collected, everyone's genders and birthdays and this sort of, first layer of customer data, and not doing anything with it. But for us, I think the best bit of feedback I have is a merchant that I speak to quite a lot, who they now every single day, 9 a.m, spend like the first 20 minutes of the day looking through Census on yesterday's responses, pulling out any negative responses, and actioning anything off the back of them. So sort of building out their shorter term tasks based on any negative feedback that they've had. And I think that's like that for me is probably the best bit of feedback that we've had, like knowing somebody sat there using the app and making real changes. And there is merchants where I'll go on the site and see changes sort of slowly appearing on site based on different suggestions that we or the app has made for them to make. So yeah, I think there is still a step where you need to action the steps or the analysis or whatever that's given. But I think we're trying to provide it in the simplest way, where it's like actually there's just a nice easy takeaway task that we can get moving on straight away. I think that's the aim of the as well as other things like that. Fundamentally is the aim to continue giving insights and giving like actionable bits that somebody could just say, that's a good point, let's go and implement that on site.
Yeah, I really like. I mean, Marcus Sheridan wrote that book, They Ask You Answer, and I like the concept that almost we're getting the questions, and then again, that might be steering a content strategy for the client that says, actually, we need to do some blog creation around this, or we need to do some video content, or we need to do this, or we need to redo our PDP, or whatever it is. Yeah. I love the fact that actually it's the customer driving the decisions and the data driving the decisions, rather than hunches, which we've seen all too far before, is essentially brands going, oh, well, I've seen competitor A do this, and therefore I'm going to do that, rather than actually what is your customer looking for. I guess rather cheeky question is to understand like where Census is going. And so we've got the roadmap and we can kind of see where we are today. But what I want to know is like what's on the horizon, and for people signing up to Census, hopefully after today or going forwards, and I've got a question coming in, which I'll come back to shortly. What I want to know is what's the next couple of features that we can expect to see on Census to kind of whet the appetite of what's to come?
Yeah, I think so shorter term. So we've just rolled out the sort of, Shopify has changed to extensions and that focus. I mean, that's taken a bit of time, which it's not the most exciting for everyone, but anybody updating new checkouts and all that sort of thing on Shopify will be able to carry on using it. One of the bigger things, a couple of bigger things is broadening. So rather than just Shopify, as we've started getting a lot of feedback, we work with brands on a range of platforms as well. And there is a bit of a build-up of, it's like, love to use it, but not Shopify. So we're trying to build that out non-Shopify as well. But I think the focus is now, so I'm quite a fan of apps doing something specific really well and pushing that, rather than just chucking on loads of chucking loads of other features and you start to cross over with other apps. I think the focus is going to be on this piece that we've been talking about. So actually, how can we continue to surface interesting things from the data for the merchants and just keep making it as useful for them as possible. Using AI more, using other methods to pull up trends, and actually part of it goes with day-to-day we're consulting on, aside from Census, we're sort of doing that consultation, looking through data and making suggestions. So it's how we can bring in our expertise on that side and almost be like a consultant within the app for people that we're not speaking to day-to-day.
And how sophisticated can so let's say brand installs the widget and the app, and then, customer goes through the process and they tell them something within that. Does it then rely on the customer to then go and take action? For example, oh, we wish you did a bundle. Oh, okay, blimey. Now I've got to go and message the customer and say, hey, did you know we do a bundle and here it is? Versus is there a way to tap into a Shopify flow or something that says, if customer tells us this, or is it these range of answers, then take them to this landing page almost automatically rather than kind of having to wait?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think so. A first step of that we're already doing. So we're already, we work with there's some merchants using that'll get sort of 10,000 responses a month, which is a massive amount of data for one person to, try and sift through. Hence all of this, where it's like pulling out the actual interesting bits and what they can do. But I think so. A step that we already do is segmenting. So within the app, segmenting by the response. So within the responses, we can tell if, even without saying bundling, if they're talking about a sort of package of products, anything that's related to that, we're sort of tagging those up already as like if somebody's talking about bugs that they've experienced, if they're talking about bundling or shipping information or like lack of sizing and all that sort of thing. So we're already labeling them. So if you go into the app, you can quickly click one button, see everybody that's talking about shipping, or see everybody that's talking about bugs, or in your case, like bundling. So yeah, in theory, the next step would be actually using Shopify Flow or building out some actions on the back of that. So or Klaviyo flows to say, we know that you've had a negative experience around shipping or bundling or whatever. Here's what we've done for it, and actually automating all of that.
I really like that kind of sentiment analysis piece that almost says, oh, okay, I've just got feedback that someone's got a challenge or a query, etc. How does that now integrate with Gorgeous or Alike to raise a ticket and kind of take out a lot of the manual legwork? So a lot of the questions can almost be answered based on best guess and then kind of polished rather than all manually. Because again, I guess there's someone 10,000 responses a month. I mean, awesome amounts of data, but of course that then provides the need for resource and someone to go through those, et cetera. And so then it comes back to, okay, well, yes, great, we're getting the data, but if we're not doing anything with it, then arguably what's the point, right? We're just as we were. Mitz has just raised a really interesting question, which is around how can a manufacturing brand who makes leather products build better touch points with their distribution channels versus their single consumers and collect better data from them? So I guess certainly from what I'm taking from that, I mean, getting the data from the single customer, something like Census can do. I guess if you look at other marketplaces or channels, etc., if someone's purchasing through Amazon or perhaps eBay, marketplace, etc., is there any way we can collect that data? Like, can the Census widget be embedded in an email flow or something that means actually Shopify or no Shopify or coming direct to us or not, we can still collect valuable data?
Yeah, so already currently, so we've done an integration with Swap Commerce. I don't know if you know them, but they have, so this is a bit of a tangent, but we'll come back to the question. So they're like returns platform. They've got like a really cool platform where anybody that's made orders can go in and see the status of their returns in different things. But where they're embedding now Census within that platform, so that customers that are in there looking for information about their returns can answer direct questions, or rate their experience or whatever they want to ask within that platform. And so there is functionality to embed. You can create the survey and embed it into landing pages or off Shopify. So if you've got a brand site that's hosted somewhere else, you can embed into those pages. So in theory, you could embed the form somewhere else and collect the data of the experience customers have had offsite, and then it all sort of collates into one place.
Mitch, I hope that helps answer your question, and thank you, Liam, for expanding on that. One question I'm keen to kind of understand is we talked a lot about post-purchase, but actually I see more and more brands trying to collect data as early as possible. And I guess it's a difficult one, right? Because you don't want to interrupt conversion journey, and we don't want to be asking loads of questions before someone's comfortable and they end up leaving and going elsewhere. Based on what you're seeing, how early is too early? And are there any typical questions we think we can get out of people pre-purchase as opposed to post-purchase? And the one that springs to mind is that kind of date of birth piece, which tremendous if we can get name, email, date of birth as early as possible, get them on the email list, and whether they purchase or not, we can hopefully nurture them. Yeah. But is there anything else that you're seeing people are able to gather pre-purchase rather than post?
Yeah, I think so. For me, pre-purchase, I prefer the use case of again, being specific. So for example, if you're using like Shopify Markets, asking questions around, if they're on if you're a UK brand and you've used markets to sort of, you're trying to broaden into the US, asking questions purely on, US traffic that are on the market side on what their experience of like localization is, and is it up to scratch, and actually getting real US user feedback on how they're experiencing the site. Or for example, so one of the use cases that we had is, in fact, did I mention it? I don't think I mentioned it. So part of the reason we built Sensors in the first place was a client that was using a product configurator. Did I mention this already?
I don't think.
No, there was a client that had invested a lot of money into like a product configurator, so you can choose your colors and materials and this, that, and the other. And then they wanted to like understand how people are using it and if it's useful, how they're engaging with it. And literally just couldn't do that. So they were using Hotjar, which was pretty common. Couldn't actually ask anything specific. So using sensors on site, so pre-purchase, but on areas like that where it's like, I'm testing out, or I've built this product configurator, I'm looking for feedback, or, is it doing everything that you'd expect? Or on, collection pages, if we surface in the products that you're actually interested in, or things like that, specific things through a user journey that maybe is not for everybody, but knowing if somebody's from a certain geolocation or device they're on, or anything like that. I think that's probably the more powerful use case for on-site.
One thing I'm really liking the thought of is that I'm seeing a lot of brands asking for a kind of a gift finder or a routine. It's like between gamification and Octane or something like that,
Yeah.
where they're saying, can you help tailor what I need based on my preferences of makeup or cosmetic, or actually I'm thinking again in the pet world where you've got a feeding guide that says my dog is this age and they're this weight and they like this kind of diet, etc. I guess that's a potential another use for sensors pre-purchase, where we could just kind of build out a bit of a profile of them and others in their kind of buying group, whether it be family or friends, etc. Have you come across many customers using it that way?
So that as a trend, I think, has been massive over the last year or so. So that like gift finder or guided shopping piece. I think there's so Octane is one. I think there's a couple of really strong apps that do that already, that, clients that we work with on the consulting side, I'd probably suggest one of those because there's a lot more steps to it. But yeah, in theory, you could do that. I guess it's just, again, it's trying to not make the app too generic. So the piece around, we're trying to give specific actionable insights and understandings on the data that's collected. The broader range, if you start collecting a massive range of things that like people are just looking for, I suppose it sort of dilutes the data and the recommendations that you'd make of it. So probably not as a use case, but I mean, in theory, it would work.
Yeah, and that's one thing that's really stood out to me today, Liam, is that your guys' kind of relentless focus on being great at something rather than trying to do everything. And like you say, I'm sure there are more use cases. We could sit all day and talk about, you could do it this way and could do it that way. But actually, primarily post-purchase, getting good quality data that then provides actionable insight is where you guys are carving a niche and doing incredibly well. I'm conscious of your time, and I know you've got other meetings to get to, etc. Really grateful for you joining us today. My final question is, for those that want to find out more about Sensors, download it. Is there a free trial? Like, how can people get started with collecting actionable insight from today?
Yeah, so you could download, I think there's a 7 or 10 day free trial. I think it's 7-day free trial, but you can install and use it straight away. It's literally, 2 minutes to set up in its most basic form. There's no development required whatsoever unless you're wanting to embed it in different places. And even then, it's copy and paste basically. So yeah, there's no development required. It's sort of, you can get up and running in 5 clicks or so. That's a rough guess. And then like definitely get in touch. I've got like a 1-pager, or like me and Paul spend definitely a disproportionate amount of time jumping onto calls to just like talk about it with people than we should. But yeah, definitely reach out, and we're happy to do that as well. But yeah, install and give it a try for the 7 days. You'll sort of hopefully see the potential of it.
Yeah, massive thank you for your time today. For anyone wanting to check out Vervaunt, check out what they're doing with Census, please do tune in for episode 3 of Ecomm Engine coming soon. But for now, thanks again, Liam. Appreciate your time, and I'll see you again soon.
Cheers. Thanks for having me. I'll speak to you soon.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.